This is the Sunday Spotlight, a public affairs program featuring people of interest in our local community. If you would like to be interviewed on Sunday Spotlight, please call us at 423-346-3900. Thanks for listening. Now, the Sunday Spotlight on WECO.
Welcome to the Sunday Spotlight on WECO. I'm your host, Judy Burge, and my guests this morning are Brian May and Pete Waddington with the Brushy Mountain Group. And let me say thank you for being here this morning so we can talk about these plans that you all have for Brushy Mountain Prison.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Pete, if I could, let me ask you, how did this all get started?
Well, I came up about a year ago, or right at a year ago, with a good friend who's actually his son had committed suicide, and we did a benefit motorcycle ride, and this was the second annual ride. Tony out at the prison was good enough to allow us inside the prison to have lunch during our ride, and that's actually the first time that I saw Brushy Mountain.
From there, then the idea just grew? Did you just keep thinking you would like to do something with that property?
Yeah, I think that immediately when I saw the property and started to hear the story, I think that I probably hadn't even left the holler before I started thinking about what we needed to do something with the property. It was just too great of a piece of property in history. And
how have things progressed then? You said that was about a year ago. In the interim, that's led you to where you are today.
Well, I guess I had initially started, had a couple conversations with Tony, and he directed me to Nashville, where I started meeting with the Department of Correction in Nashville, just to see if it was a viable business plan and if the property was even available. And back and forth with Nashville for several months, and eventually directed me towards to Becky Rupe first, because she was initially involved with trying to do something with the prison site, and then ultimately with Lisa Rutherford.
And Brian, if I could ask you, just what is the plan? What do you want to do with the old Brushy Mountain Prison?
Well, ultimately, the plan is to create a great tourist attraction based around the prison itself, and that includes everything from an RV park and a restaurant to a bed and breakfast and event center, festivals, bottled water, gift shop, all those kinds of things that we've talked about and started to develop over the last year.
How did you get together to move forward with this?
Pete and I have known one another for years.
We've done some work in the past in local business in Chattanooga. And then our third partner, Tom Poteet, I've been knowing Tom for over 5 years. And this was just a perfect fit for all three of us together for what we bring.
And are all three of you businessmen in the Chattanooga area?
We are, yes.
Okay. Would you mind if I ask what you do there?
I'm in the restaurant business there.
Okay. And Brian?
And I own an advertising agency, an electronics accessories company, and a couple of other things. So yes, I mean we as a group run several businesses, and I'll speak for Tom. Tom is in the home health care and prescription drug business, and has employed on and off upwards of 300 and 400 people at a time in several different corporations.
You're listening to the Sunday Spotlight on WECO. My guests this morning are Brian May and Pete Waddington. They're with the Brushy Mountain Group, who have a proposal for the old Brushy Mountain prison site. Brian, I know that there's a process that you're having to work through. You can't just take that property and go open up. There's actually some steps you're taking. If you would, talk about some of those.
A few of the sort of near-term things we would have to deal with the state and how the state wants us to transition the property. That's either into the county's hands, the Department of Economic Development's hands. We really don't know yet, to be honest with you. And I'll let Pete speak a little bit to the local process and the petition and the names and some of those things that other people have heard about.
I will say that we've been working with Mr. Edwards as well, first to find out if this is even a possibility. Obviously, we need to make sure that the citizens of Morgan County are comfortable with us and want us here. And if that is the case, it's kind of the cart and the horse thing. If that is a possibility, we're working with Susie Christ and Lisa Rutherford and Don Edwards and the state to try and figure out the direct path in which to take the property from the state level to the local level and ultimately to the developer level.
It isn't just real easy to do, is it?
It's
There's
not,
a lot of
no.
red tape to go through.
There's so many different roads coming and going on this thing. And it's hard to decide what to do first, and it has been. So there were many months prior to us really getting involved on a local level to where we even had to find out if any of this stuff would work. We're at that point right now where we're working with the hopefully the right people to pick the path and find out where we're supposed to be singing this song.
And at this point, now that you've had a chance to study it, and I know you've had some people helping you with gathering information, at this point, do you really think this project could be successful here in Morgan County?
If we didn't believe that, we wouldn't be putting the time and effort into the project and driving the 2 hours 2 or 3 times a week from Chattanooga up here, and spent the last year and tens of thousands of dollars just to get to this point. If we didn't think it would be successful, and all three of us as partners, there isn't a business venture we take on if we do not have a strong belief that we're going to be successful.
You're listening to the Sunday Spotlight on WECO. I'm your host, Judy Burge. My guests this morning are Pete Waddington and Brian May with the Brushy Mountain Group. We need to take a short break, but we'll be back with more right after this.
My bank is Citizens First Bank. Make it your bank too. Where people come first with a hometown touch and your best interest in mind. Citizens First Bank. We're the bank with rewards, and we're here for you with friendly service time after time. My bank is Citizens First Bank. Make it your bank too.
Step outside and look up. You may see a valuable system of poles and wires, a system that delivers important telecommunication services to you and your neighbors. Damage to this network can interrupt critical services in your neighborhood and beyond. That's why Highland Telephone asks you not to plant trees within 15 feet of utility lines. And when burning brush, make sure you pile it far away from utility lines. Highland Telephone Cooperative thanks you for your cooperation.
You're listening to the Sunday Spotlight on WECO.
Welcome back to the Sunday Spotlight on WECO. I'm your host, Judy Burge, and my guests this morning are Pete Waddington and Brian May with the Brushy Mountain Group. And Pete, I know that you are looking toward opening a brewery there, a distillery, at the Brushy Mountain prison site, and a referendum is needed for that to happen. If you would, elaborate on that.
Yes, we are looking to do a distillery on the property. It requires that we get 700 signatures countywide from registered voters, and then the county commission votes, and we need a major majority from them to allow for a special referendum that we will be holding at our cost to allow the Morgan County citizens to vote yes or no if they would allow distilling in this dry county.
As I understand it, even though you would be making moonshine whiskey there, it wouldn't be being consumed there, right?
Absolutely not. We have no intentions of ever coming to the folks of Morgan County and asking them to allow for liquor by the drink. And technically, by law, we wouldn't even be allowed to do that. We cannot distill or manufacture the product and sell the product by the drink anyway.
And even though this distillery is something you need in order to make everything else viable, Brian, it is just a small piece of what you want to do there with that prison site, right?
It is a very small piece, especially on the local level. If you look at the plan for the site, from the moment you come onto the property, you really don't experience any of the distilling operation until you're all the way at the back of the property. And quite frankly, if you tour the prison itself, you're just touring the prison. And it's not like Pete said, it's not like we can serve liquor by the drink. We don't plan on it. It's not something that we ever will want to do.
Pete, if you're not serving it there, and that's never your intent, what do you plan to do with the moonshine whiskey that you're able to make there?
Distribute like any other manufacturer would through the wholesale level.
And I think you've already come up, Brian, with some labels and possible look for what you want to do for your packaging, right?
Yes, we have. We have an advertising agency that has been working on this for a good number of hundreds and hundreds of hours, and the packaging, we've already been told by the few people that have seen it that are in the know and in the business that it could be a huge hit.
if you would, I know I saw the plans and I heard your presentation that you gave at County Commission. You talked about some pretty exciting things like the RV park and the horse trails and those type things. Talk about some of those amenities that you would have there if you're able to move forward with this project.
Sure. And Pete, you can jump in anytime. Some of the stuff we've talked about and are actually in the plans to do and would be operated as individual businesses would be an RV park. We know from studies and research that there's a need for it and a want for it up here in this area. Horse stables for doing rides, and we'd build a great barn and have some gorgeous pastures where folks could get on their horses and ride up through the park. And as you come into the park a little further or the site a little further, we'd have an open area to do weekend markets like farmers markets and arts and crafts fairs. And the key thing to understand there is it's not just having those on the site for people to just kind of show up, but we would be running ads in newspapers as far away as Chattanooga and Knoxville and in this region, the East Tennessee region, to get people to come here on a regular basis for a Sunday drive and spend money in Morgan County.
And as I understand from the presentation you had at County Commission, that financial impact could be pretty huge.
Yes, just from a job standpoint, indirect and direct jobs, the consultants that we've hired, so it's not just us making these numbers up, but it's really smart people that this is what they do for a living, and we've paid them a good amount of money for these projections. They're comparing the distilling and tourism as two really vibrant and growing industries, and what could happen here. And the story is ultimately about 385 direct and indirect jobs over 5 years.
Are you looking at some time frame now? I know that you still have several things that have to happen, but when would you ideally want to be in operation there with the distillery, Pete?
Well, the distillery is going to take, excuse me, it's going to take upwards of a year and maybe even a little bit longer to get that up and going. Obviously, the whiskey sales, we're a good 5 years down the road on that as well. So we've got this thing kind of mapped out as far as what to bring on first. I think we're going to start out with the RV park and the restaurant and the tours right away. And the goal here is to have our advertising firm generate those tourists to get into Morgan County. We know that there's 65,000 folks a year coming up through historic rugby. We know there's 600,000 people going to Big South Fork every year. We also know that there's a 500,000 people every year touring the Bourbon Trail just an hour and a half north of us in Kentucky. And we're trying to just pull from all of those folks and bring in different folks to come and see the prison and see the distilling operation. And it's all about getting the folks to Morgan County and to get the tourist dollars here, because we all know what tourists do. They leave their money behind. They're on vacation, and that's what they do. So it benefits the gas station down the street and the RV park and the hotels and whatever else decides to come along the way as we build this thing.
And one, I think, of the really nice features of the plan you have is this old historic prison gets to stay intact as a piece of history.
Yeah, everything. And hopefully folks will be able to view our website here in the next week or so. Everything we're doing to improve the property, it's already a beautiful piece of property. We all know that. Anybody that's been out to Petros. But once you hit that gate going into the prison, our intentions are to leave that just the way it is. That's a historic piece of property, and it should be left alone, and it should be maintained. Now that's also a critical part of what we're doing, because somebody needs to get out there and maintain this property. Obviously, we'll have to do that in order to bring the tourism in. But from the gate forward, that's where all the new development happens. We're gonna clean up that creek that runs along the front of it. We're gonna put a couple of bridges over it, walking trails.
We'll plant trees.
There's orchards going in, and some of the products and things that we do to grow may actually be served at the restaurant on the tables, and it could be a product that's also in the moonshine or in the whiskey.
You're listening to the Sunday Spotlight on WECO. I'm your host, Judy Birch. My guests this morning are Pete Waddington and Brian May from the Brushy Mountain Group. We need to take a short break, but we'll be back with more right after this.
If you've been thinking about upgrading your internet service to DSL, or if you are a new internet subscriber, now is the time to take advantage of a money-saving offer from Highland Communications. From now till July 15th, save $120 with free installation and free account setup. Also, there's no extra charge to upgrade DSL packages for existing customers. Call Highland Communications in Wartburg or Oneida for details. Offer requires a 1-year service agreement. A delay in installation may occur due to high demand.
Sexton Ford presents the Summer Spectacular Sales Event. Hey everybody, Elizabeth Beard here. We have blockbuster deals on all our new vehicles, including a $1,000 matching down bonus cash. I can sell you a 2011 Fiesta or a 2011 Focus. Take your choice and pay only $13,000. Stop by today and we'll inspect your vehicle brake system for free. You never pay any dock or add-on fees at Sexton Ford, Highway 62 in Wartburg. Stock numbers 41 and 39 plus tax, title, and tag.
You're listening to the Sunday Spotlight on WECO.
You're listening to the Sunday Spotlight on WECO. I'm your host, Judy Burge, and my guests this morning are Brian May and Pete Waddington from the Brushy Mountain Group, and we're talking about their plans for the historic Brushy Mountain Prison. Obviously, these things don't happen easily, and it takes a lot of people working together to make things happen. So if you would, address what you need now from folks here in Morgan County.
Well, I would, even just backing up a little bit, Judy, if you look at this as a pie, and we need all the pieces and parts to have a whole pie, we need everyone working together. And so what's great about this partnership is one of our partners, Tom, has large-scale development and large-scale employee management skills, and even on the financial side of making those things happen and running those corporations. Pete, equally as successful, has large-scale restaurant, service industry, and even property development experience. And then on my side, I've over 20 years of working in the advertising and branding business for some of the largest brands in the world. And so there's 3 pieces of a 4-part pie. The most important piece is the citizens of Morgan County not just allowing us to do this, but we being willing to take some ownership in it every day as they come to their jobs and entertain people as they come from as far away as any of us can imagine.
Pete, one of the things you mentioned to me kind of off the air is perhaps having folks who have worked there at the prison coming back and being part of this.
Oh, absolutely. I think that while we still have those folks with us, hopefully for many years to come, but they're an asset, and they've spent 20, 30 years working at the prisons, and they're still with us, and they're still excited about the property, and it's a part of their lives. That's the perfect tour guide to us. I mean, obviously we're going to do some automated type tours, but we still want to have several of the ex-guards walking around and telling their stories, and that is what makes the property. I mean, you can stare at jail cells all day long, but I'd rather listen to somebody that worked at the prison for 20 years, or somebody's daddy that did, or granddaddy. And I mean, we've heard it 100 times since we've been up here. It's amazing how many people have a direct connection to that prison that have already asked us if this does go through, could we please have a job?
And they all have wonderful stories to tell.
It's amazing.
The state prison system has been a huge part of this county since Brushy Mountain originally opened well over 100 years ago, and it remains one of the largest employers. So, it is important in the lives of citizens here in Morgan County.
And can you just imagine what the museum's going to look like? Well, we'll have access, and we're working with the right folks to get the artifacts from years gone by, the shanks, but to have an ex-guard walking around and just
look at a photograph and say, hey, I knew that guy.
Yeah.
He wasn't all that bad, or he was horrible, or what. But only those people know those stories.
Right.
Well, it's one of those things, too, where because of my job, because I've been in news media here for almost 30 years, I've had reason to be inside those walls at Brushy Mountain and have toured the entire facility once it was not vacated by inmates anymore, just to be honest there at the end when I saw the entire facility. But most residents here in Morgan County have not had that chance. So this would actually give people here an opportunity to see something firsthand that they've only heard about in stories previously.
Yeah, that was one of the surprising things for me when we just did this festival this past weekend, your festival, and in the square, and working that booth and listening to all the stories and the people. I was really amazed at how many people said, my grandfather worked there for 25 years, but I was never able to go behind the walls, or I've never been inside the prison, and that's something that this project would easily rectify.
Is there anything else you would like to say just about that tourist concept of the prison itself?
Well, I mean, if we can circle back to the Bourbon Trail in Kentucky, 90% of the folks, of those 500,000 people every year that go through the Bourbon Trail, are not from Kentucky. So we're bringing an entirely different demographic to Morgan County that is going to drive by I-75 or I-40 and keep on going. This is going to give them a reason, if we market it properly and we are doing things right. We're bringing a whole new segment of people to Morgan County that are going to spend dollars here in the county.
And Brian, you said one of the pieces of the pie is the people here in Morgan County, and it's my understanding that eventually Brushy Mountain Group will employ about 120 people. Is that right, you think?
Yes. The consultants that live sort of in this world of projecting jobs for counties and states and the municipalities that we've hired have looked at our plan. They've looked at similar properties that have only distilling or only a prison as tours, and they came back to us and said, it's amazing the possibilities with having these two pieces on site. And again, the numbers they gave us, and they reiterated to us, we want you to use these numbers, but we feel like these numbers are very conservative, and that at the end of 5 years, the direct jobs full-time on site would be 122 jobs, and at the end of 5 years, direct and indirect jobs, those that don't necessarily work at the new facility but work as support jobs around the county, would be almost 400, about 385 to be exact.
And do you see that 122 people mostly coming or all coming from right here in this area?
Pete and I and Tom have agreed from day one that this is not possible without employing the people of Morgan County first. So, as I said in one of our commissioners' meetings presentations, it's our first choice and will always be our first choice not to just hire from Morgan County, but to use businesses that are already established in Morgan County. So if we need jars for something, we want to try to buy it locally. If we need T-shirts printed, we want to try and get it done locally. If we need transportation, we want to try to get it done locally.
Well, we're going to need a lot of corn. So.
Yeah, and use the farmers that are here locally, and we even wanted to look at helping people create some of their own sort of peripheral businesses where we say, hey, we've got this great website that's selling things to people in Norway, believe it or not, and we know that from research we can do that. So why not sell preserves or jam or honey or something that's made by a local farmer or a local lady where someone says, this lady in my church makes the most unbelievable jellies and jams. So we go to her and say, hey, what can you produce? If it's a small number, that's fine. We'll put a label on it and we'll help you. And all you have to do is make the jellies and jams and we'll handle the rest. Those are the ideas that we have. It's not just about our property, but it's about the county and the citizens of Morgan County.
And selling that on a local level to the tourists when they come through, because there will be obviously a gift shop, much like there is at Jack Daniels and Alcatraz, those two different segments, but there's gift shops at those, and I think the gift shop works way better if we've got, local craftsmen or local farmers pushing their products out of there. And they can, and those folks are able to use Brian's expertise to be able to sell that stuff and market that stuff. And that's the direction we're trying to go with it.
You're listening to the Sunday Spotlight on WECO. I'm your host, Judy Burge. My guests this morning are Brian May and Pete Waddington from the Brushy Mountain Group. We need to take our final break, but we'll be back to wrap things up right after this.
If you like sports, you'll love Highland Media, your locally owned and operated TV video service. Highland Media has all the sports channels you want: baseball, golf, NASCAR, and much more. Why watch sports with poor picture quality when you can watch it in high def from Highland Media? If you like sports, you'll love Highland Media, your locally owned and operated TV video service. To subscribe, call 611 for Highland Media.
We treat you like family.
RMG.
RMG. Roan Metals Group has been named Best Recycling Facility in Roan County. We thank you for this prestigious award. Roan Metals pays competitive rates for all your scrap metal and is open weekdays 8 till 4 and on Saturday the 13th and 27th from 8 till noon. Roan Metals Group in the Roan Industrial Park between Harriman and Rockwood.
You're listening to the Sunday Spotlight on WECO.
Welcome back to the Sunday Spotlight on WECO. I'm your host, Judy Burge, and my guests this morning have been Brian May and Pete Waddington from the Brushy Mountain Group, and we have been talking about their plans for the historic Brushy Mountain prison site in Petros. Obviously, we don't know that this is a given. You still have lots of things that you have to do and things that you're working on, but I know that you're doing your best and working hard to answer questions for local residents and get information out. So if you would, talk about some of those things that you've been doing.
We've been to Sunbright, and we held an information session there, much like the presentation that we did for the commissioners last month. August 9th, we will be at the in Deer Lodge.
It's at the Abner Ross Center, I think.
Abner Ross, I keep forgetting what that is, yes. And we're doing that on behalf of Susie Christ. And really, we've asked all the commissioners if any of them are interested in us coming up in their districts and holding, whether it be in Oakdale or Oliver Spring, it's irrelevant to us. The more we can get up here in front of the folks in Morgan County and get them comfortable with the actual vision that we have, that it's not a distillery, that we're not here to change any laws, we're here to create jobs, create a tax base, bring the tourism dollars to Morgan County. At the end of the day, that really is what all this is about.
And I believe you told me that if a group wants to hear your presentation or see your presentation, they can contact Morgan County Commission Chairman Susie Christ or Lisa Rutherford, the Director of the Morgan County Economic Development Board, right?
Absolutely, and obviously they've been instrumental in this entire process, particularly over the last few months. Susie's done a wonderful job, and all the commissioners that have gotten on our side and gone out there on their own time to get the signatures needed to actually put this thing to a referendum.
Obviously, our time is quickly coming and going, but I do want to give you just an opportunity to say anything else that you would like our listeners to know about your proposal.
I would say, to Pete's point, if I had to boil this down into simple terms, this is about a tourism attraction that creates a good number of jobs in Morgan County for the citizens of Morgan County and business owners of Morgan County currently, and it's something that you have three businessmen that are successful that have committed tens of thousands of dollars to this project currently without any real guarantee that it's going to happen. That's
our commitment.
That should display to the folks of Morgan County our commitment to this project.
Pete, is there anything you'd like to add?
Well, certainly we'd like to thank you for your time. You were very nice to invite us on. Obviously, the more we can do this and the more we can get out and meet the folks of Morgan County, the further down the road we'll be. We've met, I've been coming up here for several months, and everybody from Ball Bat at the prison, and Tony, the warden Tony, and Dennis at the fire hall, and Lisa Rutherford and Susie, and just really everybody that we've met, they've just welcomed us with open arms. I won't say ecstatic at first until they heard a little bit more about what we're trying to do, but I think the more people listen to the whole vision, the easier and easier this is getting to be as far as to present to the folks. We are not here to change any laws. We are here to create jobs.
And I think you told me that originally you wanted to be back before County Commission in August, but that isn't going to happen just because of the logistics of everything you've got to do, right?
Yeah, we still need to work out, like we said earlier in the show. We are trying to work on securing the property and making sure that it's a viable plan with the state and on the county level. And in order for us to take that to a vote, to a referendum, we need to have that stuff worked out first. So it would have been great to have it done in August. Let's all cross our fingers, and hopefully we can get out and take a vote in September.
I thank you for taking time to come from Chattanooga up here today so that we could do the Sunday Spotlight.
Thank you.
I want to thank all of you for listening and being part of the Sunday Spotlight each Sunday. I invite you to be back again next Sunday for another Sunday Spotlight right here on WECO.
You have been listening to the Sunday Spotlight. If you would like to be interviewed on Sunday Spotlight, please call us at 346-3900. Sunday Spotlight is a public affairs production of WECO FM.
From the Crustville Wholesale Carpet Studios, this is 101.3 FM, WECO, Wartburg.